I hope you had a great weekend and I hope you're having a great day. Well, today I want to talk about smelly burps. When we constantly belch or we have a lot of burping and it smells, which means you can literally smell the food that has been digested in your body. Now, this smells something like rotten eggs. It's called hydrogen sulfide. That's a buildup of gas that you have in your system. Now, we need to understand that the formation of gas in the digestive system is normal for everyone. We all form gas, we all release gas through flatulence. It's the normal mechanism of the human body that happens when we digest our food. But sometimes when we constantly find ourselves burping too much, and when the smell is too much, we burp a couple of times, sometimes you get that rotten smell. It's really not a medical issue, it's really not a health problem. But if you notice it's happening way too often, there are a couple of things that you need to check. So now, number one, let's understand that sometimes we trap air in our esophagus when we eat too quickly, when we drink our water too quickly, and then the body throws it out in the form of a burp. That's absolutely fine. Sometimes we have excess gas which is trapped in our small intestines. Okay, and while we digest food, we have a microbiome that is your good bacteria and your bad bacteria, trillions of different kinds of bacteria in your gut. The function of the gut bacteria is to help break down certain foods, which is why it is so important that we maintain the right microbiome in our gut. Prebiotics, probiotics, staying away from junk food, sugar, anything that destroys your microbiome will create more stress on the gut absorption and assimilation. All the absorption and assimilation of the food that you eat happens in our intestines, and then it's absorbed across the intestinal wall into our blood, and our blood carries oxygen and all the nutrients from the food that we eat to trillions of cells in the human body. So now these burps, the smelly burps that we sometimes get, are also called sulfur burps. Okay, it's hydrogen sulfide, and it's like I said, it's not really a problem unless it's happening too often and unless the smell is really, really bad. So like I said, the first lifestyle change that we need to do is slow down with our eating. When we eat too quickly, we do not completely digest most of our food at the time we are supposed to do it. So, we don't chew our food, we send larger chunks of food into our stomach. The stomach has to produce more acid, and literally incomplete digested food reaches our intestines, and the gut bacteria has to work harder at breaking it down. And there's more gas because we've eaten too quickly, which means we've taken more air. And then the body tries to push that out in the form of a burp, which has that amount of smell. Now also, when we consume too much of protein too quickly, we need to understand when we're eating protein-rich foods. If you're vegetarian, it could be any food that's rich in protein, right from your lentils to your chickpeas to your rajmas, your nuts, your seeds, and all of that stuff. And non-vegetarian, your meats, your fish, your chicken, and all of that stuff. We need to chew protein foods way more than the other foods. We should be chewing all our food the right way, but protein foods, because the more saliva we generate, basically signals to our stomach to produce more of the pepsin, the enzyme, more of protease, the enzyme that helps us break down protein. So we have complete digestion of protein. You'll notice that these smelly burps usually happen when you've had a high protein meal or a lot of protein in your meals. So we need to slow down, chew our food, even drinking water. When you drink, especially when you stand and you gulp down water, you also take in a lot of air. So we can have a lot of burping, especially when you stand and drink. So sit down, slow down, and sip on your water. And especially right after a meal, you do not want to be gulping down water, because that mixes with your digestive acids, your fluids, and you have incomplete digestion again, leading to more gas and more burping. Now, what we want to be careful of is if we have excessive burping, you want to check for something called H. pylori. This is a bacteria. Now, people who pop a lot of antacids, basically antacids works by blocking your stomach from producing stomach acid. That's a really bad thing, because if we don't have the right amount of stomach acid, there are certain bacteria that can actually grow into our system. One of the most common bacteria is the H. pylori. Now, one of the symptoms, there are many symptoms of H. pylori. One of the main symptoms of H. pylori is frequent burping. It could happen during meals, before meals, after meals, right through the day. So if you find that you're burping excessively, you have abdominal pain, you're not breaking down your food well enough, you're feeling fatigued throughout the day, you may want to do an H. pylori test just to see if you have that bacteria. That's especially for people who have consumed a lot of antacids or who are currently consuming a lot of antacids. If you have GERD, we've all heard of GERD, that's your basically your gastroesophageal reflux disease, when we keep having a lot of acid reflux. So that can also lead to a lot of burping with this rotten smell, or the sulfur smells that we call it. People who have IBS and Crohn's, we know that this is a condition of a poor functioning gut. The small intestines are involved in this. And we have a poor microbiome, and that's why we have more gas. So people with this issue can also expect these burps. Now, if you have a food intolerance, sometimes we realize too late that we're intolerant to gluten, we're intolerant to milk, certain nuts, or certain foods. So when we're intolerant to a food, basically the microbiome is completely upset again. And if we have constant burping with a foul smell, you want to check if you're intolerant to certain foods. The first foods you want to try to cut off individually is wheat, and then milk, and then maybe eggs and nuts. But these are the main inflammatory foods that can create problems with the gut. So you want to cut that down and see if it causes a problem. Now, if you have smelly burps, what we can do, there are several foods that can help you besides lifestyle changes of slowing down your eating, sitting down, drinking your water, sipping on it and not gulping too much. Green tea, chamomile tea, these are great teas to basically calm down these burps. Then we also have fennel, ajwain. Fennel is your soft, you have ajwain, which is your bishop's weed, you have jeera, which is your cumin. And that's why we've spoken several times about one of the best digestive drinks that you can have within 30 to 45 minutes after a meal. In ancient India, we usually chew on these seeds. We take a little bit of ajwain, we take a little bit of jeera, we take a little bit of soft, which is your fennel, your bishop's weed, and your cumin, and we put this in our mouth and we chew it immediately after a meal. Why does it make us feel good? Because it helps us secrete more digestive enzymes, which further helps us to break down these foods so we have complete digestion. Now, if you don't like chewing it, the simplest thing is to take like a teaspoon of jeera, a teaspoon of soft, and maybe quarter a teaspoon of ajwain and boil it into a tea. And you can have a cup or two of this soothing tea, which helps you with your gut issues, your indigestion, and the smelly burps as well. And then ginger as well. Ginger is highly anti-inflammatory and very soothing for the gut. So to the same tea, you can add a small piece, like a 1-inch piece of fresh ginger, and you can get that into your food as well. Most Indian foods are cooked with all of these spices, including ginger. So when you have a well-balanced Indian meal, which we do not overeat and we cook it the right way, you see our Indian meal already has the wisdom of ingredients that helps us to stimulate digestion and our gut as well. So these are simple things that you can do. Turmeric as well is fantastic for calming down the gut. So it helps us with all these smelly burps. So if you have smelly burps, introspect. You don't have to get worried about it. But if it's happening too frequently and the smell is too bad, you want to definitely look at your digestive health. And these are some tips that you can start off with. Have a great day, everyone. Until next time, eat smart, move more, sleep right, and breathe deep.